It says it's recording.
Okay.
Okay. Well, here are the adventures of Zoom. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to show a few slides and then we'll start. Hi, Paul. Nice to see you. Actually, why don't I introduce our board members since we are here and I can see everybody now. I'm Lisa. I am the executive director of the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. We actually thought that name wasn't quite long enough. Most of us are already tired of this joke. But so we've added Los Angeles to the beginning of it. So now we're the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. Charles, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please, as one of our board members?
Hi, everybody. Charles Miller. I live in Palms. I'm the chair of the Green Committee at the Palms Neighborhood Council, also the chair of Climate Reality Project for LA and the board of LA NCSA.
Great, thank you. And Aurora, please.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Aurora Corona. I'm a member of the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, the newest member. And I'm also on the Pico Union Neighborhood Council. I am the chair of the Quality of Life and Safety Committee. I'm also a budget representative, a lot of titles like everyone here. And thank you for coming.
Thank you. And Muriel. You look very, very small, Muriel.
Oh, I put it, I'm like, it's like my camera's far away from the thing.
Oh, it's not that you shrunk. Okay, phew. Okay.
No, like I could, sorry. So, I'm sorry. I'm another board member. I'm one of the steering board members of the NCSA, former Echo Park Neighborhood Council board member slash, a very long acronym, the sustainability-based committee chair, and I'm also the current transportation chair.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to try to breeze through a few slides because we're already running late. Let's see if I can. Oh, wow. All these things are popping up. I cannot see the, let's see if I can get to this. All right, I cannot get to this easily. Okay, let me just try to breeze through these as they are. Please introduce yourselves in the chat and put your name and your neighborhood council or organization and what brought you here today. Our mission is to advance sustainability and resilience through advocacy, sharing of best practices, and community action. We have a variety of committees and working groups, and we'll be reviewing those at the end of the meeting. We've got advocacy, energy, transportation, trees, and we have a working group that meets sometimes on sustainability guidelines for developers. We are, as we've already heard, recording today's meeting as best as we are aware. We should probably double check that. You can add your neighborhood council or organization next to your name and your pronouns if you like. And once again, introduce yourselves in the chat. For the first piece, we won't be participating through a conversation, although you can in the chat. Use the raise hand feature to participate and follow our community agreements, which are super important. And we'll put a link to the evaluation in the chat. And we really do want to hear from you because we like to know what is working and what isn't working. And we're always trying to improve. Here are our community agreements, which we'll also be putting in the chat. If you can, turn on your camera and show your face so that we can continue to build community. Please assume good intent and give people the benefit of the doubt. Demonstrate respect and appreciation. Refrain from having, the chat is open. We like the chat being open, but refrain from having too many side conversations in the chat, please. Listen intently. Step forward and then step back, meaning contribute and then let others do the same. Speak concisely and have fun, of course. I skipped over the agenda. The agenda is here. Today we're doing this. I'm going to try to wrap this up right now. Then we are going to talk about the candidates for CD10. We have all the candidates here except for Councilmember Hutt, who declined to attend, but we have the rest of them here this evening. Then we're going to talk about gas stoves and how it is that we still have them, even though we shouldn't, and what we can do about it. And we're going to meet with Serena Oberstein, who is the candidate for CD12. And then we will have announcements and hear from our committees. And then, as I mentioned, have evaluations. Okay. And board members, if you can help spotlight our candidates, I am going to hand it over right now to Yvonne Yen Liu. She is co-director of the Solidarity Research Center, and she's going to be moderating, and she's also with the Los Angeles People's Movement Assembly. I think I got that right. It's a, well, anyway, it's a very, very interesting and exciting effort happening in LA that we, the Alliance, are a little bit a part of. And she'll be walking through what we're doing this evening and then taking over. And so we'll be working on spotlighting everybody, and then Yvonne, the floor is yours as we get that going. But you
Okay.
can, the floor is yours, Yvonne.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Again, my name is Yvonne. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in El Sereno in CD14. And what we're going to do today is use a typical Q&A format with timed responses. So some questions might focus on a particular candidate, but there will be opportunities for each person to sort of speak. I'll announce the time. In fact, I have a timer, which I will set up as soon as we start. And the order in which each of the candidates will answer the question will vary, just to kind of change things up. And so we're going to start off with introductory remarks. So each person, actually, can folks see that right now? Okay, good. I'm going to stop that right now. So each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to introduce yourself, tell us what led you to run for the Council District 10, and then what sets you apart from the other candidates. And the order is we're going to start with Pastor Eddie, and then go with Assemblymember Reggie Jones-Sawyer. Then third will be Aura Vasquez, and fourth will be Grace Yu. So, Pastor Eddie, are you ready to go?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm going to start your timer right now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be in space with you on tonight. My name is Pastor Eddie Anderson, and I am a community organizer and pastor. I pastor in the West Adams Neighborhood Historic Church, McCarty Memorial Christian Church, and I live in Mid-City. I'm a renter, and I decided to run because there's one question that I've always asked of my community and of myself. That's how we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And as I listened to my community and did over 100 one-to-ones and began listening to folks in the community, I heard people say, how are we going to make sure that the rent is affordable? How are we going to make sure that we can cross the streets and not get hit by cars? How are we going to make sure that our trash gets picked up on time? When will we get our voice back at City Hall? So after listening to all of my neighbors and my colleagues, I decided to run for city council. I ran for city council for 3 things. 1, to fight poverty, not the poor, to reinvest in our communities, and to reimagine what democracy looks like for each and every one of us. To make sure that neighborhood voices, make sure that the voices of the people are heard in City Hall. I'm a coalition candidate. I've been endorsed by the California Working Families Party, by the Asian Democrats of Los Angeles County, by LA Voice, by Run for Something, and over 33 civil rights leaders and business owners in my community. I'm running, and what makes me different is that I'm a service provider. I'm a community organizer, and I'm a coalition person. And I've been able to invest over $8 million into the community to make sure that we have urban farming, to make sure we have education in our community, and feed over 25,000 of the residents in CD10. I'm here to work for you, to be a partner with you, and hope that in this conversation, I'll learn more about you all as you learn more about me. And I'm glad to be here on tonight.
Right.
Thanks, Pastor Eddie. You actually have 7 seconds. You don't have to use it. Okay, thank you. All right, so next, we have Assemblymember. So are you ready to do your introduction?
Of course.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll start your time now.
I'm Assemblymember Reginald Byron Jones-Sawyer Sr. Probably took up all my 2 minutes. I'm running because this is my last year in the Assembly. And I thought about going off into the sunset. I have a retirement from the city of Los Angeles after working there for 25 years. So I know the ins and outs of City Hall and how government works. But I spent the last 11 years doing legislation in the California State Assembly. I have a 100% voting record with the Sierra Club and other environmental groups. I could have gone off into the sunset with a retirement, have done my civic duty. But what I heard on those tapes and what I heard from my constituents and other people who were very concerned about City Hall and the fact that it's not working the way it should, which would be for people. And so I decided I would run. And I decided I would give back not only my knowledge of working knowledge of what the bureaucracy can do, but using my legislative skills and abilities to improve the LA City Council, especially since we have some really, really daunting tasks. We've provided, we meaning the legislature in California, have provided billions of dollars back to the local level for housing, for homelessness, and to deal with crime. And still, at the local level is where the action is. That's where things actually get done. And I decided I need to get back to the city that I love, and start to make things happen, because there is no one else that I know of that can actually put both the legislative and the bureaucratic part together to move the agenda that we all want, which is to provide services for people in the 10th district, but most important, to be a voice for the people of Los Angeles and not for the people that are there right now.
Thank you. So next we have Aura. So Aura Vasquez, are you ready to do your introduction? Okay, I think you might need to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm going to start your time now.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Aura Vasquez. I'm not a stranger to this group. As many of you know me, I led the groundbreaking Beyond Coal campaign, getting LA off of coal. And later, as a community organizer, also working on the ban for single-use of plastic bags. For single-use of plastic, as many of you know me, I have marched and organized around the environmental justice space since I was 11 years old, and I learned about global warming and climate change in my native Colombia. I am an immigrant, Afro-Latina, and my family and I came here in the early 90s. And actually, a lot of the organizing and the community work that I do is because they instilled that in me of giving back to our community. I have been also a commissioner for LADWP, where I actually have worked with many of you here also in that capacity. I decided to run for office for many reasons, but for my main reason has been the environment and putting our climate first. I am alarmed that after we had an incredible opportunity with the pandemic and seeing how much we lower emissions then, we haven't done much. I have worked, as a workforce development commissioner. I serve in our local neighborhood council, and I am tired of seeing people moving in our district to run for office, people getting appointed to run for our office. It's time for a person of our community to run and to win and to bring unity and solidarity and also cohesiveness. I have experience in the private sector. I have worked with for Fortune 100 companies and also in the public sector as a commissioner for LADWP. So I hope we have a rich discussion tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aura. And last we have Grace Yu. Grace, are you ready to present, to introduce yourself rather for 2 minutes?
Definitely ready.
Okay, lovely. I'll start your timer now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Grace Yu. I'm running for Los Angeles City Council District 10, and actually I've been running since 2015. So I'm definitely committed to seeing some justice occur in our city. When I ran, it was because I knew democracy was dying in our wonderful city. My family immigrated here in 1974. It's 50 years this year. I was a 3-year-old toddler. I'm a K through 12 LAUSD alum. And I'm someone who really loves my city and believes that people should be treated fairly, that we should all receive services from the government, not just certain areas. In fact, I was walking today and one person said to me, he said, Grace, our streets get paved every other year. We get a lot of attention. I don't think that's fair. Halfway down the block, another neighbor we get a lot of attention here, Grace. I hope you will continue to make sure we get a lot of attention. I said, I think it's wonderful that you get a lot of attention. I want to make sure all of the district receives a lot of attention. I'm running because of just basic fairness. You know, honest leadership will bring positive change. If we have government accountability and transparency, that will bring about change. If we have an ethics division that is actually resourced properly where they can do their job, we would see changes. Right now, you have people who can break the law while running for office and nothing is going to happen because they're underfunded. Having the right person in office makes all the difference. And as an attorney, as a former commissioner, and as someone who has just been a community activist fighting for the people, you want me in there because you want change and you want things to run smoothly for everybody.
Thank you. So we are going to go to our second question now. So each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to this question. So the question is, in the 1970s, 20% of the population of Los Angeles was Black. Today, the percentage is less than 8%. Black families have been displaced from the city because of gentrification, the rising cost of housing, a lack of good jobs, and also because of an influx of immigrants from Mexico and Central America. So CD10 consists of historic Black neighborhoods such as Leimert Park and Baldwin Hills Crenshaw. How have you addressed, or how will you address, the loss of our Black population? And does the loss of our Black population matter? If so, why? I know that's a lot, but you have a minute to respond. So we're going to start. The order this time is we're going to start with Assemblymember, then go to Aura Vasquez, then Grace Yu, and then Pastor Eddie. So let me set the timer to 1 minute, and then, and then Assemblymember, are you ready?
Sure. Can I go now? All right. My family moved here in 1971 in Council District 10, when it was a robust community of African Americans. Since then, because of gentrification, the demographics have changed. If you look at even the voting demographics, it's 30% Black, 30% Latino, and 30% Asian white right now. And more people who have the financial means are moving more and more into the district. But unfortunately, a lot of African Americans are selling their homes at cut rate prices. If they don't know that their gem that they have right now. What I would do is trying from the state level, we're going to try to propose to give incentives for African Americans to keep their homes. Taking that 250,000 or that $500,000 doesn't mean anything when you have a gold mine. That house is generational wealth, and we need to be able to keep them in their homes. If we don't, not only will we lose the Black community and home ownership and wealth, we'll lose Black people altogether.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Next, Aura, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to start your timer.
This is such an important question because I believe that the reason why is in alarming numbers African Americans are leaving Los Angeles. And if you look at Los Angeles as a whole, not just District 10. You know, we have a less than 20% of African American, you know, population in Los Angeles. It's because of the kind of policies that we have created in this city. The city council that we have currently and all of the other elected officials that we had have failed us. And as Afro-Latina, I also feel that burden because I'm both. So I believe that as we continue bringing our city to a much more honest place, you know, by enlarging the city council, by having an ethics commission that is well-funded and that can really actually put order at City Hall as we continue working with our city attorney, we can also create policies that can protect African Americans to stay where they live now.
Thank you, Aura. So next we have Grace. Are you ready, Grace?
Definitely.
Okay.
You know, the question as to race and percentages, I think because everyone has the freedom to move as they wish and do what they want, that's great. But when you are required to move out of your neighborhood because you can no longer afford to live there because the apartment rents are too high, when affordable housing is really not available, when we don't have workforce housing, we're in big trouble. And I think if we start building low cost affordable housing, we'd be in a good place. I also think if we had the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act or the Community Opportunity or Community Land Trust, if you have these social housing projects that are available, that would allow for more people of color to stay in their homes that they've been in for decades. And it's also better planning by family members.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, so next we have Pastor Eddie. Are you ready, Pastor Eddie?
I am. Thank you for this question. So one of the greatest honors I've had is to serve as the pastor of a 92-year-old historical church. My members were some of the first Black people who moved into Los Angeles in 1950, 1955 area. They talk about gentrification a lot. One, because the 10 freeway went through the middle of South LA and got rid of a lot of Black folks. We got to talk about that. But we also need to talk about how gentrification is on the rise. Here's what I've done. In Leimert Park, I've organized with the tenants to figure out how can they stay in their buildings as they continue to do business. In West Adams, I've worked with people to make sure they have food and also do workshops so they don't get the housing scams or improvement scams or the cash for key scams. We've done those workshops for the community on a continual basis. In places like Mid-City, I've organized on the block with my neighbors and with the OGs who are there to figure out what can we do to make sure they have a right to work and actually get jobs to stay in the community when they return back to their villages. This is the ways that we can do it through work, through information, and making sure everyone's included and voices are included.
Thank you. So we're going to do a second round, still sort of on the topic of the sort of loss of the Black community in Los Angeles, the Black population, but with the intersection of what does this have to do with sustainability? So each person is going to have a minute to respond to that prompt, and the order this time is Aura Vasquez, Grace Yu, Pastor Eddie, and then Assemblymember. So Aura, I'm going to start your time now.
What's the question?
Oh,
I'm sorry, maybe I missed it.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so what does the loss of the Black community in Los Angeles, what does that have to do with sustainability?
Well, yeah, I mean, sustainability is something that affects all of us, you know, and I also see that we have talked about, you know, building more affordable housing, building more access to people to purchase their first home, land trust. We have talked about socialized housing. All of those practices are great, but we need to also bring more sustainable practices, having those homes to be EV ready, especially for renters. As a former commissioner for LADWP, I worked really hard to create a Solar for Renters program. You know, we also need to make sure that in historic Black areas where they pay a lot for their energy bill, that we also have incentives so that, like energy efficiency, for example, microgrid technology in churches, which is something that just passed the legislature, will allow us to also, as we mitigate the effects of climate change, to refuge in places that have clean energy and are independent from the grid.
Thank you, Aura. Grace, are you ready?
Yes, the reality is nothing as sustainable as readapting and making do with what we have and improving it. So we can keep the house, the bones are great, but we can make different uses. Maybe instead of one huge, large house, you make it into a triplex, and that is sustainable. That would also mean families can stay in the family home. It's just that the parents or the grandparents have passed, and then the parents received it, and then now they have grandchildren who should be inheriting, but when there's 4 grandchildren, you need to divide and nothing happens, and so you have to sell the house. I'm also an estate planning attorney, and I understand that generational wealth really comes in California through owning property. And I think if we had more opportunities and supported people of color having more access to capital to be able to stay in their homes, that would be a good thing.
Thank you, Grace. Pastor Eddie, are you ready?
Yes. My friends, for sustainability in the Black community, a couple things we got to look at. One is Black businesses. Black businesses are leading our community at a high rate. And so we can, one, help folks figure out how do we keep a cap on commercial rents, but also how do we retrofit their buildings so they can keep up and not have as high electric bills and water bills and still be able to be in business and pay folks. The other thing is the lessen the burden on mom and pop landlords. A lot of Black folks that I know in community also have extra homes, and that extra homes help them get income. So we have to make sure that when we write laws and ordinances that we are looking at how are we being equitable so that mom and pop Black landlords, people in my church like Elder Kerr just passed away, can keep their buildings and still have that wealth to pass on to their kids and generations to come after them. The last thing I would talk about is making sure that our Black youth in our community feel that they belong in the neighborhood. Too many of them feel like they're being priced out, that they don't belong in the neighborhood anymore. We can do something about that at City Hall.
Thank you, Pastor Eddie. Assemblymember, are you ready?
Yes. As someone who served on the Reparations Committee and now bringing over 113 different recommendations to the California Assembly, I know what the harms that have been foisted on African Americans throughout California and in CD10. And so I've worked real hard to make sure that we do across the board, whether it's in prison population, businesses, being able to close the wealth gap. But one of the things I want to point to specifically is in our communities. I was able to shut down an oil field, actually a couple of oil fields in our community that were literally killing our youth. One of the oil sites was near my home that was actually killing my son. We shut that down, and he's now in college right now, 6'4", thriving and working. We need to be able to go in our community with all those oil wells that are in our communities for us to be able to sustain ourselves, to live a healthy and work-free life. We need to be able to shut those down like I did with Redeemer in the Jefferson site.
Thank you, Assemblymember. So our next question will have to do with the new Metro line, the K line. So since it was, so each person again will have 1 minute to respond, or 4 minutes total. So since the Crenshaw LAX K line was partially opened in October 2022, neighborhoods alongside the transit corridor have been changing. So small businesses, small independent businesses are being replaced by investor-owned commercial spaces, and also high-rise apartments. So what would you do to uphold the promise after the 1992 uprisings that the K line would invest in sustainable public transit and not destroy community economies? So the order that we're going to go for this question is Grace, you, Pastor Eddie, Assemblymember, and then Aura Vasquez. Grace, you ready?
I am now. I have unmuted myself. You know, the K line and Metro saying that they want to be able to keep people intact, and the reality of businesses not being able to stay where they are have come to a clash, because you have businesses who have closed down because they cannot afford the rents there. I also think we have an issue with the K line when in wealthier parts of the K line, it's above ground, or way not street level. And when you're in areas that are not as income rich, it is street level, which is more dangerous to the pedestrians. So I want to be a council member who makes sure that what we say and what we achieve are equal. You know, when the city talked about fixing the sidewalks, they just cut down, mowed down the wonderful big mature tree shades. And they shouldn't have. They could have saved the trees.
Thank you, Grace. So next we have Pastor Eddie.
Yes. Thank you for the question on the K line. So I organized with a group of pastors and community organizers with Metro, when attending the Metro meetings, say they needed to give more business sustainability funds. So when they interrupt the businesses building the K line, they should have doubled down on that. And so one, I'll do an audit to see who didn't get money and to make sure that we are actually giving that money out to folks to uphold that promise. The other thing we can look at is how do we activate the areas around the trains to make sure that small businesses and street vendors from the community are populating those areas. I'm doing that currently. I'm working out a deal with a local coffee maker from Crenshaw area, and we're hiring local students from that area to run those coffee carts in those areas to make sure that the community is included in what happens next on those lines. The last is also, how do you make sure that we are actually bringing culture into the ways in which we are redesigning the area, planning, so city council has input on what gets built. We should look at the site plans and do so accordingly.
Thank you, Pastor Eddie. Assemblymember.
You know, you got to remember that MTA and Metro knows how to displace, but they don't know how to replace. As director of real estate for the city of Los Angeles, I worked on a lot of projects where we had to move people, businesses from one area, but we made a distinct policy that we would make sure they could come back and reinvest in that community. Not only did we move them and able to build police stations, fire stations, libraries, but we made sure that those other businesses that we moved out came back and had enough money to be able to operate again. Metro needs to do the same. And we need to have people either on the board that are appointed by the mayor on there to make sure that that is done. We need people that actually know how to get that done. Otherwise, they will continue. I repeat, they will continue to do that because that's all they know. They know how to displace, but they never know how to replace.
Oh, thank you, Assemblymember. Sorry for my dog. Aura Vasquez.
Yeah, hi. So I think your question is pointing us to transit-oriented communities and the lessons that we learn around the Crenshaw K line, you know, to LAX. You know, it's interesting. I went to the naming of one of these train stations after Diane Watson, the former congresswoman and a very beloved, you know, politician, female politician in the Black community. And it was quite exciting for me to hear her say how she's worked since those days when she was a congresswoman to bring more public transit to her community, and especially a train that will unite, you know, the Los Angeles all the way to LAX, because she felt that it was going to bring prosperity. But I do have to admit that transit-oriented communities have brought a lot of gentrification and also displacement to communities, and it's something that we need to look at and we need to address so that it doesn't happen in the future again.
Thank you, Aura. So the next question, we will similarly have each candidate address for 1 minute. I'll put the question in the chat in addition to reading it out loud. So in 2020, the year that people coalesced in the streets to make sure that George Floyd's life matters, a group of grassroots activists attempted to purchase the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza shopping mall to build a local solidarity economy. Unfortunately, their offer to purchase the mall was turned down, and instead it was sold to developers from New York. What have you done and what will you do to build BIPOC ownership, green jobs, and community wealth? So folks will have a minute to respond. So the order that we're going to go in is start with Pastor Eddie, then go to the Assembly member, then Aura Vasquez, and then Grace Yu.
Awesome. So 3 things I've done to make sure that we are building community wealth for BIPOC folks. So I was working with Damien and others when we were trying to figure out how to buy them all, and we were turned down. And so continuing that effort so that we can have cooperative economics. And so one of the things that I've done through my CDC Partnership for Growth Los Angeles is invest in urban farming and also help make sure that those urban farms then give food to the community and build a grocery store that is a cooperative, using cooperative economics so the community has ownership. Something else that I've done to increase green jobs and ownership is to make sure that in our community that people actually have access. So I've been advocating on the city level and on the county level for us to revise how we do our master contracts and procurement to make sure that Black businesses and people of color are able to actually do business with the city. Sometimes the barriers are just too high to do that business with the city as well. Those are 2 things that I've done to help build BIPOC ownership in our community.
Thank you. Assembly member?
Again, on the reparations committee, we noticed that there are no Black businesses, or there are businesses that are BIPOC, that they're slowly going fewer and fewer. A lot of it's because of institutional racism that has been going on in California. And we've, in part of the reparations, we're going to provide business opportunities, business education, and to be able to level the playing field, whether it's financial, whether it's being able to put together a business plan, whether it's even just being able to have access to capital, to be able to deal with, like New York firms, to have the financial capacity to deal with it so that we can put together a brief or a business plan that ultimately would be a winning business plan in the city of Los Angeles. I think a lot of times we have people who go with the people that they know and been using for a long time. We need to stop that. We need to bring in new people. And what we're going to do with reparations will show the way that not only not African Americans, but other people who have been put down will be able to use it.
Thank you, Assembly member. Aura?
So the question is, how can we increase green jobs? So I'm assuming jobs and communities and wealth in the community. And I'm currently serving in the Workforce Development Commission for the city of Los Angeles. And this is the #1 question that we discussed. 40% of the small businesses in District 10 closed, at the verge of the pandemic. There's tons of people that lost all of their life savings because they don't have enough. And this is especially affecting women. And, so I believe, or what I want to do as a councilwoman is to inject more resources to small businesses to help them get ahead with their marketing and other practices, especially as it relates to, competing with the bigger world out there, especially the world online. We have a lot of moms and pops businesses that don't even have an email or somebody that, how to get in touch with customers. So that's also important to me. And of course, wealth in a community, besides a job and a good paying job, also has a lot to do with earning and buying home and property. So that's something that is also a strategy for me in my campaign.
Thank you, Aura. Grace, you?
The Crenshaw Mall and the attempt to purchase it with Damien Goodman and others for, creating a community land trust, they're still going strong. They weren't able to purchase the Crenshaw Mall, but the community land trust is really thriving. And I anticipate the community land trust being able to purchase property soon, not as large as the mall. I will also say that I am proud to be someone who really works with the Black community. There was a church predominantly African-American, that was not getting funding from normal banks. And so the pastor reached out to me saying, Grace, do you have any connections at the Korean bank? And I said, let me check. I bet you I can find somebody. The pastor promised me that their numbers were good. It was just they were redlined in the wrong zip code. And they were right, because I was able to get a Korean bank to give the loan, and the church is thriving.
Thank you. So our next question has to do with charter reform. So I'm going to paste the question in the chat and also read it out loud. So the Charter for Los Angeles was written in 1925 when the population of our city was a little over 500,000. And it established that 15 members would make up city council. Today, we are a city of 4 million people, yet we still only have 15 members. The last comprehensive revision to the charter was in 1999 when the San Fernando Valley was trying to secede. What is your opinion of the charter reform effort? Have you supported it? And will you support the attempt to expand city council and also to set up an independent redistricting commission? So each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to this question. And the order is Assemblymember.
I'm Reggie Jones-Sawyer.
Right. Sorry, I think it's because it went to the next line. It threw me up. And then actually, you can all read the chat, so I don't need to
Long
read.
name, I understand. Okay, are we ready? Go. As probably the only person that actually worked, I was an assistant deputy mayor when the last charter reform was done. So I know how it's done. I know the impact and how important it is to do. Two, as someone is the only one that represents 250,000 people, I also know how difficult it is to represent 250,000 people. So the council needs to be expanded because you need an individual who will be able to get to access to each of those individuals in a more comprehensive way. Right now, the setup is too much. As far as the redistricting, it needs to be the same way we do it in the state capitol. I was against it at first, but now I know about the corruption that can happen. Having an independent, a truly independent committee talking about it, looking at the demographics of how you reapportion things is the best way. Get politics out of it. Let's make it more uncorruptible.
Thank you. Aura Vasquez?
All right, so do I want an extension for the city council? Absolutely. I think we should be at least 30. In cities like New York or Chicago, they have way more. You know, New York being 51 and Chicago, I believe 48. So I think this will allow us as, the city council members to serve better the community because it's gonna be less, and it also is gonna curb some of the corruption. In terms of the independent redistricting, I wholeheartedly support it. I believe that also commissioners that get into the redistricting commission should get paid a fair wage, so that people in the community, so that low-income people, so that community members can also serve without having the restrictions of having to have a job or such. Like I serve in the LA-DWP commission, and DWP commissioners don't get paid. And it was the greatest honor for me, but you have no idea how hard it was for me to have a full-time job and also serve our city. So yes, we should have independent redistricting, and we should also enlarge the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace, you?
I've been a huge proponent for an independent redistricting commission. I think that would be a wonderful breath of fresh air. I also think that just because I'm in favor of increasing our city council, 25, 27, I'm good with that. But you know what else I want? I want us to have more accountability. Just because you have less constituents that you need to respond to does not mean that there will be no corruption or less corruption. I think we need to really enforce laws that make our council better. If we are truly going to serve the people, I, as a council member, would make our hours longer so that, you know, I staggered staff so that we have evening hours open, that we have weekends, some Saturdays, some Sundays, not every single day of the month, but, you know, if we want to be true servants, we need to open up our time.
Thank you, Grace. So a follow-up question.
What about?
Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No
Okay.
worries, no worries. It's
Eddie,
like,
I'm so sorry.
absolutely. I would love just to chime in on this question as well. This question for me is about equity. I had the honor of serving as the redistricting commissioner for CD10, and I was one of the first commissioners to come out and say we need independent redistricting commissioner. I strongly believe in that. I organized with RLA, grassroots groups from AAPI Equity Alliance, Catalyst California, to CHIRLA, to LA Voice, who I also work for. And we've been giving advice to the city council on how to actually do an independent redistricting commission. Not only that, though, we have to actually look at how many council districts we have. Between 23 and 33 gets us to the equity that we need. Equity has to be our North Star, and we also have to reform the charter to make sure we have ethics reform, right? And planning and land use reform to make sure that we actually have equal representation and that we're actually giving equitable distribution of resources to our community so that constituent services can increase in our community as well. So that absolutely, I support independent redistricting commission and expansion of city council.
Thank you, Pastor Eddie, and my apologies again. So the second question is sort of a follow-up to the previous one about charter reform. So Pastor Eddie, you mentioned that you had served on a redistricting commission. So one of the proposals, one of the suggested reforms right now is that anyone who has served on the commission should not be allowed to run for office until the next redistricting process because of a conflict of interest. And would love to hear what your thoughts on that are. So again, everyone has a minute, and the order is, sorry, I pasted as a picture. So Aura Vasquez, Grace Yu, Pastor Eddie, and then the assembly member. So
and your question is geared towards just the redistricting commission, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I believe it's fair, especially because in the last redistricting, people got appointed and we saw how that turned out. So unfortunately, some of and even though there are already policies in place saying that commissioners shouldn't communicate with elected officials, is inevitable sometimes. So I think it's fair for redistricting commissioners to recuse themselves to run, especially right after, they because of conflict of interest. But more troubling is the appointment of commissioners, which I think is something that is hard to alleviate. And we can talk about how would it be like for somebody to maybe have a lottery at the city so that people can serve and they can apply instead of being other elected officials appointing people to commissions, because it just becomes really hard, for you to serve honestly when you are, appointed by someone else.
Thank you, Grace.
The state, their redistricting commission and how to bring some parity and equity was really well thought out so that you actually have independent voices, and the state's independent redistricting commissioners are prohibited from running in the next cycle. So I would definitely favor the city following the similar format and not allowing people who had a say in drawing these districts. It would be just the same as if our current city council members have a say in how the districts are not drawn for their benefit. So if you wanted to make sure that it was fair for everybody, then And it's not to say that people are doing bad things. It's just for the sake and appearance of transparency, you want to take that out of the system and make it so that a commissioner cannot run in the next cycle.
Thank you, Grace. Pastor Eddie?
Yes, I would support it, and I would support it to be time limit. I think 10 years may be a little too long. So one of the suggestions that we've coming from the grassroots listening sessions is that they can't run for at least 4 to 5 years if it's an independent redistricting commission. I think right now what we have is an advisory commission, which meant that honestly, sorry, and we all thought it was very much democracy, but it wasn't, because city council just took the map and drew what they wanted to do in the first place. So it's really city council's map that got passed in the day. But if it is a truly independent redistricting commission and you actually have power over where the lines go and actually how it moves, then you should not be able to run the next cycle, and it should be time limited. I don't think you should have to wait 10 years, because that takes away a lot of our community leaders who want to do grassroots work and want to be a part and have civic engagement, but they shouldn't be allowed to run immediately right after on an independent redistricting commission.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor Eddie. Assemblymember?
Thank you for the question. The state of California has the blueprint for how you do it. We shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. They should just follow what we do in the state of California. Not only can you not have no political affiliation. You cannot have worked on a committee, a campaign before, can't be related to anyone. You can't be a staffer. You can't have, you're totally independent of any political influence. You can't be a delegate to a convention. You can't have any type of influence as far as being on the commission. They do try to make sure they get equity in as far as African American, Latino. They try to get Native American. They do that. But at the end of the day, each of those persons that get on, they not only are they not involved in politics, they probably weren't involved in politics at the beginning, and they don't want to be involved in politics on the back end. And so they're not trying to deviate or make it to what they want it to be.
Thank you, Assemblymember. So we have 2 more questions before we have closing remarks. So the next question has to do with our mayor, Karen Bass. So she promised to house 17,000 people living in the streets in her first year. By December 1st of last year, only 3,551 people were housed in permanent units. What do you think of her track record so far? And what about her work on other issues? So the order that we're going to go is we're going to start with Grace Yu, then go to Pastor Eddie, then the Assemblymember, and then Aura Vasquez.
The mayor has done the best that she can. The problem is we have a counting system that actually doesn't account for who's really homeless, how many there are. I've been doing the homeless loss accounts for 9-10 years at this point, and we don't count people. We count tents. We count abandoned cars, people on the street. But when you have a system set up so that you actually cannot determine how many people are actually housed, I think we have huge issues. The fact is, programs count people that come in are serviced, but the person can be at 1, 2, 3, 4 different spots, and they're going to be counted as 4 different people. So I think if we work on making sure that we have an accountability that is true and real, we'd be in a better spot.
Thank you, Pastor Eddie.
I think the mayor is doing a good job so far at trying to resolve the homelessness crisis. But the truth of the matter is this: as a person who's experienced homelessness and as one as a third provider, our system lacks coordination. Right, Black people experience homelessness, Latino seniors experience homelessness are rising, and if we are going to actually fight homelessness and actually resolve it, we need council people who understand how the system works. and how to coordinate between the city and the state and the county to make sure we have the services that we need and to build what we need to build. We have good executive directive orders that are in place that can facilitate that. We changed the law SB4 through LA Voice and other organizations that we organize so that churches can build on their land, but without coordination, without a willingness from city council people who know how the system works to make sure we are approving the housing, the interim housing, and the affordable housing, and the wraparound service housing, we will not reach our numbers, and that we will continue to have a rise in homelessness.
Thank you, Pastor Eddie, and Assemblymember.
Again, thank you for the question. I propose to have a homeless czar, which was killed in the state Senate. What it would done is the same thing we had with COVID, having one person responsible for dealing with the homeless situation. The mayor did a valiant effort to do that, but she also has to find a new police chief. She's in charge of 40 department and the rest of the city. And also she's on the MTA. So she has a myriad of different things. We need one person on this job 24/7. That's all they're working on, is to reduce homelessness in California and in LA. The other problem is what I call perception. You could reduce the number by as many as you can, but if that same homeless person is in front of someone's building every day or comes back the next week or the next month, individuals in Los Angeles will think that it hasn't been done. We have to manage expectations on what we're going to do and how we reduce homelessness so that people understand how we move the needle and make sure that we all understand the same benchmarks.
Thank you. Aura?
All right, so what do I think about Karen Bass' record on homelessness so far? Well, she declared a state of an emergency, which I think is something that a lot of us advocates around this issue wanted to see. The other thing is that she has done, executive order to fast track the building more affordable housing. And, she's trying her best to bring the resources and the relationships that she has in all levels, with the federal level, the state, and to bring attention to this issue. We can't sweep our way out of homelessness. And I think a lot of neighbors feel that when we do those sweeps, it's great because we don't see the unhoused people sleeping in our streets anymore. But what happens is that they come back because there is not enough services and there is not enough beds, or like how we said in Spanish, no hay cama para tanta gente. So, I believe that we need to tackle this issue regionally. We need to embed ourselves with the county. They have a lot of resources that the city doesn't have. We need to also work with all of the states around us. We need to inject more resources for people to keep them housed. And I know I ran out of time, but I'll keep going with the housing question later.
Thank you, Aura. Okay, so our last question before closing remarks has to do with the current council member, Heather Hutt. She was appointed to serve, not elected. What do you think of her track record and what she has done for the district? And what would you do that would be the same or different? And the order that we're gonna go is start with Pastor Eddie, then Assemblymember Aura and Grace.
I think the appointment of Heather Hutt was a troublesome time for our neighborhood. I know Heather very well. Her parents got married at my church, but I'm running for city council because I believe that we can break up with the status quo and actually have real change. So what I think should be done differently, and our council is actually responding to the residents. I have heard too many residents say they've called city council, called our city council office, and there's no response. And so what I would do differently is work with neighborhood councils, but also make sure we're working with the mom and pop landlords, making sure we're working with community groups, nonprofit groups, and creating those round tables and doing a quarterly check-ins with everyone in the community to see what's going on, because people close to the pain have solutions to their problems. I will also make sure that we actually do more mobility. So building out bike lanes, building out bus lanes, making sure that people can walk in our community as well, and then fight for renters. Just fight for renters and make sure people stay housed and pass GBI across our city.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Pastor Eddie. Assemblymember.
What she's been doing since she's been appointed is she's been doing a lot of community activities, showing that she's in the community, getting her name out there. I think why we are all running is because we want to take it a step further. We want someone to be the voice of CD10, someone that can actually come to forums like this and handle and talk about different issues and be able to articulate it in a way that is representative of CD10. That's why we're all here today, to show that. But most important, we need to be able to have someone that's going to tackle. Remember, the council member that was here before was tackling homelessness in a big way, was a huge proponent getting funding for this and moving the needle on homelessness. And so we need people who are able to move the needle, be able to get things done. Yes, he had some difficulties and some other things, but we can't discount the fact what he did for homelessness, and we need leaders like that in CD10.
Okay, Aura, thank you.
I almost feel this question is unfair because she's not here to defend herself. So I just want to preface with that. But, you know, she got appointed and she decided to run, which I think is not good. The other thing is that she was invited to this forum, and I have been to at least another 2 or 3 forums where she doesn't show up. So that's not great. And as a constituent, I can say it's not the best. I'm a neighborhood council representative too, and we saw her maybe once at the beginning when she first got appointed. So, you know, I believe that we should be doing way more for this district. When I go out there, people have a lot of concerns that her name was named in the recordings, that she was appointed to continue the corruption and the embezzlement. I believe that we need to keep people stay housed. We need to bring more resources from the unhoused. We need to plant more trees. We need more electrification. We need more solar for renters. We need more, you know, housing and stability for our community. And we definitely need a city council member that care for us, and it's going to show up.
Thank you. Grace?
As the person who came in second with more than 36,000 votes after Mark Ridley Thomas in the general in 2020, it sort of would have made sense for Grace Yu to be appointed, but the city council wanted to appoint Heather because she was going to say yes to what the city wanted. And Grace would have been sort of are we sure we're allowed to do that? Is this legal? That doesn't make sense. If you want someone who's going to question what's being done at the Horseshoe, you want me. And you want someone who's going to fight for the district. Unlike our current appointed council member who gave up $1.62 million in November of 2023 and then gave the excuse of it was Herb and Mark, it wasn't me. I would want truth to be known. She's been voting since September 2022, and to say that she was not the one who let our money go, shame on you.
Thank you, Grace. So for closing, each candidate is going to have 30 seconds to share any final thoughts. And we are going to go in the order, starting with the Assembly member, Aura Vasquez, Grace Yu, and then Pastor Eddie.
Again, thank you for the forum. I think it was robust. I think we all had a lot to say, and I think you got a sense of who we are a little bit better. What I want to leave you with is, if you are satisfied with the status quo, if you're satisfied with the way things are being run, I'm not your candidate. I'm not somebody you want to vote for. If you're looking for change, if you're looking for things to be done differently, especially when it comes to corruption and the way city council has been going, then I'm your candidate. Reggie Jones-Sawyer.
All right, well, thank you so much for the opportunity to, to share a little bit of my thoughts with you. I am an environmental justice advocate, and I wanted to share a lot more about my environmental background with all of you, especially this is very fitting, this forum. But I'm so grateful that we got to talk about some very important topics for the community of District 10. I'm the first Afro-Latina running in City Council here, and I will be the first Afro-Latina elected to the City Council. And that's very exciting, and I cannot do it without you. So please join our movement and learn more and get involved.
As a member of the Sierra Club, as the co-founder of the Environmental Justice Collaborative, to fight for the residents, you will have a champion who fights for the people. I am not only just an attorney, I am that passionate do-gooder, and I want to be in city councils to do more good for the people. We've got the resources, we just need the person with the will to do it. And I hope you will look at my candidacy.
Thank you all for your time on tonight. I'll leave you with this thought, that strong neighborhood councils make a good, strong city. And if we want to have strong neighborhood councils, we need people that listen to the people who work with the people who want to make sure that the people business gets done. I'm building a coalition to make sure that it represents all of CD10, that all of your voices are heard, and that we can have co-governance together to have a CD10 that is livable, affordable, and equitable for all the residents of CD10. My name is Pastor Eddie Anderson. It's been a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much to all 4 candidates for tonight, and I'm going to pass it back to Lisa.
Thank you all so much. And thank you, Yvonne. That was fantastic. I really appreciate you stepping up and joining us for this. And thank you all candidates. Frankly, I'm so glad that I am not in your district, so I don't have such a difficult decision to make. I want to hand it over to our board member, Charles, because he pointed out that we are having an event in your district in March, and he had the great idea of inviting you folks. So I'm handing it over to Charles.
Thank you, Lisa. One of my regrets, we didn't get to talk as much about sustainability issues as I would normally hope tonight. But we have an opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, it's March 9th, 10th, which I think is just after your primary, but at least one of you is still going to be involved, we presume. Hopefully, all of you will still be very involved in your community. But on March 9th and 10th, we are doing a lawn replacement in CD10 in Leimert Park. And it is a place where we're removing heavy water use grass and replacing it with native plants, putting in a water capture field in a multifamily residential housing facility there, and lots of different environmental groups are coming together. It's a great opportunity to talk with your constituents. We'll be there all day on the 9th and the 10th of March, Saturday and Sunday, from probably dawn to dusk. So you can stop by anytime. There will be more information posted in the future at our website. I've now included in the chat information on it, including the actual address, and there will be information posted on the website soon when the event is formally announced. But hope all of you can make it, regardless of the situation with the election, because we really appreciate you being here tonight and appreciate your role in the community and work for the environment.
All right, thank you. And yes, we've already had some feedback that this was not as focused on sustainability as some thought. And I meant to say, but we were running late. I think, and perhaps clearly not our board entirely agrees, to me, all of these questions were integrally about sustainability. So this is an ongoing conversation. To me, this is all about sustainability. It's all connected. It's all connected. And but that conversation is to be continued. So once again, thank you very much. And we are moving on to a brief conversation about gas stoves. So please stay with us. And then within the next few minutes, we will be meeting with, oh yes, thank you, Charles. Charles just posted the evaluation form. So please fill that out before you leave, and please don't leave, because we'll be talking about gas stoves for a little bit, and then we will be joined by candidate Serena Oberstein from CD12. We did invite John Lee, but he declined to join us. We do have a theme of the incumbents not joining us. Who knows what that means? But so gas stoves. So I, through a friend of mine, learned about a journalist named Rebecca Lieber, who, so bear with me because I'm unspotlighting folks, so I'm multitasking. She's a journalist who's worked for Vox, I guess is how it's pronounced, and Mother Jones and a bunch of other folks. She's written for the Atlantic and lots of other folks. And I actually invited her this evening, and she was not available tonight, but I hope she'll join us another time. But she has uncovered a lot of really interesting research regarding the history of the gas industry, dating back like more than 100 years, and their role in promoting gas. And so it turns out that the gas industry has known for I guess more than 100 years, more like 120 years, that it's not good for us. And they haven't really wanted to promote that fact, as you might imagine. So sorry, I'm sorry, this multitasking. Why can I not spotlight Yvonne? I don't know. Maybe we'll just gaze at Yvonne's face for the next hour or so. And it's a great photo. So, oh good, Yvonne's, okay, wait.
I really
okay.
hope you don't spotlight me the whole time.
I'm trying not to. Okay, wait, okay, I just got it. Okay, so, the gist is that back in like 1907, they were talking about the fact that, maybe having things burning in your home is not great. And then back in the 80s, the EPA almost took this up and actually considered regulating gas stoves. And for reasons that are not entirely clear, at least I don't think Rebecca was able to figure this out. I'd love to, I've read some of what she's written and listened to some of what she's said, and I don't think she was able to totally figure this out, but the EPA sort of backed away from it. They did not, they ended up not regulating gas stoves. And so the gas industry sort of did what they've done. Oh, and hi, there's Rhonda Plank-Richard, who I'm going to formally introduce in a few minutes. Hi, Rhonda. Can you just kind of say hi to everybody? She is a volunteer ambassador with the Switches On. And if you're not familiar with the Switches On, she's going to tell you more about them, because they are doing as much as anybody, probably more than anybody, to help folks transition away from gas stoves. So she's going to talk about that more in a moment. But the gas industry leveraged the fact that the EPA and other regulatory agencies didn't do anything to say, well, see, they're not regulating it, therefore there's nothing wrong with it, which is basically the same thing that the tobacco industry did with cigarettes. So there are a lot of parallels, and it turns out the two industries have used the same consultants. They've really, the gas industry followed the tobacco industry's playbook. So it's really interesting if you do a deep dive into this stuff. And for reasons I don't understand, California, New York, and Illinois really went heavily into the gas. And I don't know why, but they're the three states that really went more gas than other states. So that's another thing I'd love to find out more from Rebecca about. But we're in California, and we are heavily gas, whereas other states are more electric than we are. I want to check my notes and see if I'm forgetting some of the big stuff. Oh, so this is one thing that's really fascinating is the marketing. Like the gas industry didn't make up the term natural gas, but in the 30s, the gas industry really embraced the term as a marketing thing. Okay, wait, somebody, I think the Zoom link is asking for me. Uh-oh, it shouldn't be asking her for that. Okay, sorry, I think our candidate is. Okay, you know what, a candidate for some reason is having trouble logging on, so I'm going to say a couple words, and then I'm going to hand it over to you, Rhonda. Couple things. The term natural gas sounds great, right? What's wrong with natural gas? So they really embraced that, and the whole thing, cooking with gas, like that's the term they made up to make it sound good. So we think we love natural gas because we love natural gas cooking, and maybe we love it because we love it, but we love it because it's been sold to us. So, so that's funny, that question. So we thought Rhonda, if you can look at that question in the chat, it looks like some people would like that information. So I'm gonna make sure that Rhonda can share her screen, and I'm going to hand it over to Rhonda while I make sure our candidate can get in. Rhonda, are you ready to roll?
I think so, although I can't tell if I can actually share my screen. Let me see. Um, yeah, I'm having trouble right now just getting down to the bottom of my screen to share my screen to see my chat. Why is that? I am professionally, I'm an elementary teacher for almost 20 years now, but I'm a longtime climate activist. I'm a climate champion for LAUSD, which is this new program this last 2 years, last year and this year, trying to increase climate literacy in our school district. And I am a member of Climate Reality, the San Fernando Valley chapter. I also work with SoCal 350 Climate Action, longtime climate activist, and I have not used any gas in my home now for a couple of years. And I've become a very enthusiastic cheerleader for electrification, home electrification. And at a Climate Reality San Fernando Valley chapter meeting a while ago, the Switch Is On came looking for volunteer ambassadors. And so I'm just here to show you this really wonderful resource that's available to all of us. And it can sort of meet you where you're at. Anything that you want to learn about electrification, just starting with the basics of what it means, what options are out there, are available on this website. And then you can dig a lot deeper. If you want to find the rebates and incentives that are available to you, you can search by zip code. And if you want to find a contractor that could help you with electrifying, if you are the owner of the place that you live, you can find a contractor in your database, in your zip code, that works on the type of electrification that you want to, the type of, maybe space heating, water heating, whatever it is. And if you are a contractor, you can be certified to do this kind of work and give rebates and incentives to people. And what's been really neat as well is there's a section for renters, because obviously it's completely different for renters that can't go making large infrastructure changes, any infrastructure changes to where they live. They can ask for things, but they don't have that same ability. And it's got a section on ways that, like tonight, you could start electrifying your home. And so I wanted to show some of the features of the Switch Is On website, but I'm having some trouble right now seeing how I can, getting down to share my screen. I can't get into the chat right now, and I don't know why. Let me just move something here. What is going on? Yeah, Lisa, I can't, this is so weird, but I can't
Okay.
get down to the bottom of my.
Okay, well, I just sent, Charles, are you able to put the link to the Switch Is On? It's in the chat, please.
I'll see what I can do.
It's in the document with, it should be highlighted, I hope. It's one of the things.
Switchison.org. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get us on
And I
there.
just sent Serena the passcode, so I hope she can log on and join us.
I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, great.
Apologies
That
for
works?
the complication.
Okay, great. All right, so we can, so we're just hoping to share, Serena, oh, I see you, thank you. We're just hoping to share the Switch Is On link.
Yeah, when I try to pull up my desktop, I'm having trouble.
Yeah, that's okay. So we won't do that. Actually, yeah, I should just share it. Let me let me just share that with folks. So let me just share the bear with me. Let me just share that with folks very briefly. so that because I have so many things open, it might be hard, but let me try to do that with folks so I can do that. And then we'll move to Serena in a moment. So hold on, folks.
Yeah, I can't get into the chat. I don't
No,
really
I know,
understand.
but I'm just gonna do it so that, okay, so can everybody see this website? Somebody say yes. Charles, can you say yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so if you guys go to switches on and if you can see, so the resources, I'm gonna wait for a minute, but the main thing that I wanted to show you guys, although I know there are a couple of requests for other stuff, if you go to make the switch, if you go to find incentives is here, and I think that's the main place I wanted you to folks to know about, and find a contractor is here. But I know some folks are looking for data. And Rhonda and I were speaking earlier today, and she did say there's some really great data here. So Rhonda, can you tell me where that is?
Lisa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, go to learn more.
Okay.
Go to for renters.
Oh yeah, and you guys, I'm a renter, so trust me, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you if you're a renter. I have a terrible landlord who I do not even speak to. So trust me, I am with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. And by the way, I'll be working on this for the next year. I actually have a grant to work on this. So stay with me for the next year, and I hope we can get a lot of us moving on this because I want us to get electrified. Okay, should I click on this, Rhonda?
Yeah, go ahead and click on that.
Okay. I don't know if everybody can
Scroll
see.
down. Yeah,
Okay.
scroll down.
Okay.
And so it's the first thing you see is just basic appliances that you may not have thought about: electric kettles, microwave, Instapot. Go back up.
Sorry, yeah, I'm moving quickly because I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm.
You can
Oh,
buy.
yeah.
There we go. So this was something that Lisa and I talked about, a portable induction hob. You can buy a portable induction hob. I just checked just now on Amazon. This is what my husband and I have been cooking on now for about 2 years. It's a single induction hob along with our microwave, our Instapot, our toaster oven, our electric kettle, and we do all electric cooking. And this shows you actually, if you've got a space as an issue, that you can put it in induction hob, a portable induction hob, which plugs into a regular outlet. You don't need to do any upgrading of your electrical. On top of your stove with, they do mention unplugging the stove, switching off the gas line, or removing the knobs so that you don't accidentally turn on the gas while you're cooking. But this is definitely something that works for some people. But those portable units, if you want to try induction, are fantastic. Now, of course, you don't have to do induction to go electric. Electric cooktops are also dramatically more energy efficient than gas is. We're talking like 40% efficiency for the amount of energy you put in, the amount of cooking that you get out with gas, 75%, 70-75 for electric cooktops, and then 85-90% with induction. But with just an electric cooktop, you also are getting a lot more energy efficiency. And electric stovetops, they are much cheaper to buy right now. Although induction prices are coming down. And as I said, if you want to try this really fun new technology, you can buy a single hob for a single pot or pan for about $90 I saw on Amazon, the unit that I have. And then Glenn and I just purchased this double unit recently, and it was a little over $200. And then to buy a pot or a pan, if you don't have cookware that is magnetic, which is the other thing about induction, not just electric cooktop cooking. I started with one for maybe $45, maybe for another $100, you could get a skillet and a pot and try it out. But it really is truly that simple as far as getting started with electrification in your kitchen. A lot of us are turning on the gas constantly to boil water. Electric kettles are another gadget that are mentioned here that are fantastic. Once we started using one of those, we never went back to heating up any water any other way.
I've had one of those. They're very common in Europe, and so I discovered them when I was in Europe 100 years ago. And yeah, you'll never boil water another way if you have one. I mean, why would you? You just, yeah.
And you also with these fun things, you also get some programmability, like this two hob unit here. You can tell it start cooking at a certain time at this temperature, stop. You know, so they're programmable. So they're also just like, if you're a gadget geek, there's fun things about it. That both old style electric and induction are much easier to clean. You're not having to clean around, you know, pull off those black grates and clean those. With the induction, you have the added feature of you could put your hand right next to a cooking pot. It's an electromagnetic process, so it's only heating the pot itself. I don't recommend that you do this, but you can put your hand right next to it. It doesn't heat up anything other than the cooking, the unit that you're cooking in, and it doesn't heat up your kitchen, which is another issue for a lot of people. Incredibly easy to clean. It's very responsive, very precise. It will hold a simmer. It's really fun. And it isn't, I mean, that is an investment, but you can do it for so much less money. When I've shown this to people, they're so shocked. Oh, I had no idea that I could try something like this. Now, through Switch is on, there are also borrowing programs for induction hobs. So if you put in your zip code and you ask about cooking, it may show you that you can actually borrow one of these induction units. And a lot of us have cookware that turns out to be magnetic, and you check it by putting a magnet on the bottom of the pot. And so a lot of you may have something that you could try it out with. So that is, it's fun to think about what we're already doing and how easy and fun some of this can be. For renters as well as homeowners. And I did just want to, could you just click on About Us, because I think that's important, just to let people know who this is.
And I want to make sure that, because there were the questions about the data. So where's the data?
Oh, okay. So right after this, I'll show you where the data is. So,
okay.
So it's let's just see, can you go down just a little bit? It's the Building Decarbonization Coalition. This is a nonprofit.
Oh, where am I going? Sorry.
Oh, scroll down and it's going to tell who the part, go up a little bit. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to do this. It's terrible. These are the partners. Some of the partners right now, you'll see there are cities and there are utilities. And also environmental groups. I mean, the way I got involved was, as I said, through Climate Reality San Fernando Valley. If you keep going up, it will just, and there's LADWP. And they were hired to help to do the rebates, Tech Clean California.
And we're a member.
There we go. Okay. So launched in 2019, the Building Decarbonization Coalition. So if you want, obviously that's the first place I go anytime I get on a website is who are they? What is this about? And let's go to learn more again. Back over to learn more. Click on electric appliances. Go down to, maybe click accept and scroll down. We're going to get to the place where they talk about the byproducts of cooking with gas. With electric induction, you're not putting any of this stuff into the air in your kitchen. Can you go
Sorry,
up?
I don't know where you want me to click.
Go up. Go to cooking.
Oh,
yeah.
Click on cooking.
Cooking, yeah. And scroll down. Explore kitchen appliances. Oh, and here you'll see, actually, you can see it right here. 85 to 90% efficient inductions, very energy efficient. Keep going down. And if you are wired for an electric range, you're wired for induction as well. The cost is when you go from gas to electric, it pulls a lot of power. So you do have to add power if you're going from gas to electric. Go up and it's telling you that all you get is some heat, electric cooktop, 70% efficient, and
okay, I have to wrap up. Unfortunately, we're
but go down a little bit. We're almost there. 85 to 90% efficient. Just smoke from the ingredients. Electric smooth top. more heat because you are heating, you're also heating not just the cooking vessel, methane gas, there it is. Okay, so go down to the efficiency because it's really not an energy efficient process when you have these options. Scroll up again. Scroll up again. Keep going up. 40% efficient. Now look at the air byproduct.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
you know what I meant, Charles, can you find the links that are from the articles from Rebecca Lieber? Because those go into some depth about the air
So-
quality issues.
So, so as you can see, formaldehyde, one thing isn't on here is benzene, which I understand varies from region to region, but that can also be, and there is no safe level of benzene. Carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxides. I was reading more about this afternoon. Nitrous oxides, Consumer Reports did a study too. And even with vents on, if you turn the heat up higher than low with the vent on, they were still finding dangerous levels of nitrous oxides. All of these things affect children, people with underlying health conditions more. Okay.
So I need to stop because Serena has been waiting patiently.
Okay.
But Charles, did you hear my request?
I did that.
Oh, good, thank you. So whoever was asking, those two articles written by Rebecca Lieber from Mother Jones and Vox, the links that I think Charles put in the chat will have lots of data. It's pretty disturbing data. If you're looking for that stuff, it's there.
And there is also a summary of that on this website as well.
Okay, good. Okay, well, thank you. So that's just a little taste. We'll be getting into more depth in the coming year. There's more to come. But thank you, Rhonda, for that very, very brief little snippet. That's very, very helpful, and we will be doing more. Especially if you're in CD4, we'll be doing lots more. Okay, I do not see you, Serena, but I'm sure you're there. Oh, there you are. I see you. Okay, I am going to spotlight you. And then I am going to, how am I going to spotlight you? There. Okay. So thank you for joining us, Serena. Serena is a candidate. You're really the only challenger to John Lee. And I would love you to open up by just saying a few words for a few minutes, if you like, about why you're running and why you think people should vote for you. And then we'll open it. I don't actually know at the moment how many people here are potential voters in CD12. Maybe we can find that out in a moment. But and I don't even know how many folks know very much about you. Maybe we'll find out. But I personally think it's, in a healthy, oh, there we go. AJ, who's the chair of our energy committee, is in CD12. Maybe people can put in the chat if they're in CD12. That might be fun. And certainly, oh, there we go. Miran is also, and he's an active person in, yes, well, yeah, that's a good point. If you can raise your hands, although we can't see Nat right now because she's spotlit. Okay. Yeah, using the chat is great. And a lot of these people are close to CD12. Devon, I don't think that counts.
Adjacent.
Thank you. I like that in spirit, Devon.
Adjacent,
That's
right.
great.
Yeah.
I did. I think I knew there was a writing candidate. I think I maybe knew that. But anyway, I'd love to hear why you're running and why you think folks should vote for you. And a lot of these people are very active, of course, in their communities, so they can help get the word out. So the floor is yours, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm Serena Oberstein. I'm a nonprofit policy executive, the former president and vice president of the LA City Ethics Commission, a mother, and now a candidate for LA City Council. I got into the race about 10 weeks ago when the LA City Ethics Commission announced that our current council member is complicit, and there are allegations against him for the same crimes that our previous council member went to jail for. And I'm running for this seat because there's a crisis of conscience and a crisis of confidence in our city. The North San Fernando Valley, for those of us who grew up here, know that this is a community that people came to because it was affordable and there was a lot of opportunity. It's a community that was built by teachers and nurses and engineers, people like my grandfather, who after World War II, he dropped out of high school to go fight in World War II. And after the war, he couldn't find a job in Owatonna, Minnesota, and it was really cold. So he packed up the car with my grandmother, who had an 8th grade education because she had to drop out and work on her family farm, with my dad and his sisters. And they came out here. He got a job at the GM plant, became a UAW member, and were able to buy a house in the North San Fernando Valley. And because of their proximity to Valley State, now called CSUN, my dad was able to go to college. He was the first person in his family to go to college, and by working in a gas station. And it's where he met my mom. They got their teaching credentials at CSUN, and they spent 30 years working with LAUSD, which was incredibly formative for my life. When I was 9 years old, my parents sat my brother and I down and said, "There's no going out to dinner. There's no asking for extras. Our contract is being violated. We're going on strike." And I said, "Great, I'm going on strike too." And not really wanting to squash my spirit, they asked me why. And I said, "I think it's really unfair that you're supposed to take care of other people's kids and you can't take care of Adam and I. Adam's my brother." And so they let me come out to this rally. There were thousands and thousands of teachers, and Helen Bernstein, who was then the head of the teachers union, was standing on a park bench talking about the things my parents deserved. At this point, it was affordable healthcare and being able to put a roof over their heads. And I remembered the power and palpability of the moment of what it is to build a movement. But also, even at 9 years old, I had a sense of sadness because I understood that it took thousands and thousands of people shouting for my parents' two voices to be heard. And I decided that nobody would ever determine the depth or breadth of my voice. But as I got older, I began to realize that the way that my parents emphasized and prioritized education in our family meant that I had incredible privilege. And so really spent a career focusing on civil rights and civil liberties for all people. I studied political science in college, and then right out of college was part of a service corps and got a job with an organization called DC Jobs with Justice, which was a coalition of labor unions, community, student, and religious organizations. And that's been my trajectory. So whether I was working in the Villaraigosa administration as a part of his performance metrics unit to apply tangible objectives to broader policy goals, or at Vision to Learn as the chief operating officer, scaling a program we operated mobile clinics to provide free eye exams and glasses to kids living below the poverty line. I scaled it from 2 states to 10 in 3 years by navigating many bureaucracies. Or in my current job as the executive director of Jewish World Watch, which is an anti-genocide and mass atrocities nonprofit, where I've seen firsthand that the erosion of labor rights in this country has led to the erosion of human rights around the world. And, as an organization that focuses on sustainability, I'll say that something that's been really, really incredible for me to learn is the way that authoritarian regimes actually use climate change to make genocide more efficient. And so, I'll say the through line of my career has been creating accountability, creating transparency, working across religious groups, ethnic groups, party groups, to focus on the most urgent issues of our day and to pass policies at city, state, federal levels to bring change, to bring tangible, lasting progress. And that's what I want to do in City Hall. I think that we have a lot of big behemoth issues facing us, and currently the person sitting in the seat is not being progressive. He's not looking at tangible pipelines for jobs. He's not looking at the ways that we need to address the homeless crisis. He's moving people from sidewalk to sidewalk. He's not thinking about ways to create affordable housing or greening our communities. So I have the experience to navigate government entities to build big, broad coalitions, not to give people litmus tests and say, if you don't pass my purity test, you don't get to sit at my table. That's not the way I operate. And I think that in a moment when it feels like the world is really erupting and people can't talk to each other, that we need someone who's going to be able to build a coalition of people, of experts who can help us get to the answers so that our community can move forward. And I'm really appreciative to be here. I look forward to having a conversation with you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. And I think there were so many questions coming through really fast in the chat, and I realized I don't think I explained very well, or probably at all, that you folks in here are going to be able to ask her in person. So if you can raise your hands, your virtual hands, you can make a comment or ask a question of her right now. And we're probably going to be running late. We'll do our best. We'll see how it goes. Chris, go ahead. And please keep in mind please introduce yourself. And please keep in mind our community guidelines. And let's hope that this goes smoothly. Chris, go ahead.
Rowe. I'm a former member of the West Hills Neighborhood Council. I was their Environment Committee Chair in 2012 when I resigned. The issue that impacts the communities of West Hills and Chatsworth the most is the Santa Susana Field Laboratory cleanup. And I've written numerous articles on this for City Watch. I would like to know if Serena knows anything about the Santa Susana Field Laboratory and what opinion does she have on the cleanup? And also I would like her to be aware that 4 neighborhood councils, West Hills, Chatsworth, Canoga Park, and the Woodland Hills Warner Center Neighborhood Council all in the past supported a risk-based cleanup, not the strictest cleanup, because the more you clean up, the more trucks that will be traveling our streets. And of course, these are diesel emissions. And the risk of a truck even dumping over could cause contaminated soil to be dumped in our community. So I'd like to know if Serena knows anything about Santa Susana Field Lab. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you can, going forward, candidates, you can ask her directly because she's right here. But thank you, Chris. Go ahead, Serena. That was a lot, but go ahead.
Thanks so much. So, I've grown up in the community. Of course, I know about the Santa Susana Field Library, not to the extent that I know, Chris. But I do, I grew up hearing about the Rocketdyne meltdown and the lack of cleanup that's happened and the consequences that have happened to the residents. And I'll say this, that I think, our current city council member is part of a political family that came in, did nothing about Santa Susana, did nothing about Aliso Canyon, and has done nothing about Sunshine Canyon, right? Which are all, I would say, environmentally adjacent, where there are opportunities to work with our state, to work with those entities, to make sure there's more disclosure that we're taking care of people in our community. And that's just not happening. So, to the extent of what needs to happen, I would look to experts in the community like you on what the right steps are to proceed. I'm not someone who has spent my career focusing on that. But as I said, what my career has been spent on is bringing the right people to the table to solve problems that have often been ignored.
Thank you very much. Are there any other, there were a lot of other questions and comments in the chat. Does anybody else want to ask anything or make a comment this evening? Ida, I owe you an email and I think about you every day. I just want you to know that. Go ahead.
You're so great, Lisa. Thanks for all the amazing work you do. Yeah, so I just want to jump in. Yeah, thank you for coming, Serena. I have some friends actually working on your campaign. I'm actually volunteering with LA Forward in their campaign boot camp training. I'm an active transportation advocate. I actually grew up in the Valley, Kroger Park, knew people in Reseda. A big thing that
Oh, you're muted, Ida.
Yeah, you just cut out.
oh, sorry. I don't know how much you heard, but
You
like
said a big thing and then you cut out.
oh, a big thing that's changed since I grown up is just people driving faster, the streets becoming wider, just it being a very dangerous place to walk. When I lived in the Valley, I used to walk to school, and I was hit by a car when I was a small child because of just somebody turning a right corner, not looking, and I was just walking to the school bus. So I'd like to know, what are you doing to make the streets safer in the Valley for pedestrians, cyclists, and improving public transportation? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ida. One, I'll say that I, of course, support multimodal transportation. That I was just endorsed by Streets for All and look forward to partnering with them. I think we need transportation systems that talk to each other. I lived in Washington, D.C. after college and then in DC for graduate school. So know the importance of public transportation. I, am looking to see a full EIR on the Sepulveda Pass, and am talking a lot with Richard Katz, who of course headed up Metro. But I think we need to invest in our streets. I support the Measure HLA on the ballot so that as we're repaving, we're creating more bike paths. And I think we need to get people out of our cars. One of the most dangerous intersections is at Devonshire and Balboa, and we have hundreds and hundreds of people dying there. So I absolutely support multimodal transportation. One of the things I want to look at is because the Olympics are coming, and they're saying that a lot of our sites at the Olympics are going to be, you can't get there in a single modal vehicle. That I think, it's 2024. That's only 4 years away. We need to start piloting transportation routes so that by the time we get to the Olympics, we'll be able to have worked out the kinks. And I'd love for some of that to happen in our district.
Thank you. I'll go to Lionel before Chris, just because Chris has already spoken, but we'll get back to Chris because it looks like there are not a lot of questions, and then we can wrap up and go to committee reports and announcements. Lionel.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ms. Serena, for coming. My question is, if elected to City Council, will you help implement the mobility plan and start installing bicycle, pedestrian infrastructure, more bus shelters? Because I just read an article this morning by Joe Linton on Streets Blog LA that, and I quote, the city mandated widening the street in 2011 based on a 1999 street plan. That plan was overturned in 2015, but widening still got underway in 2023. And this article talks about a widening street on Topanga Canyon Boulevard in Woodland Hills, and the city is not doing anything to help. And instead, they keep widening the streets, and rather than improve bicycle pedestrian infrastructure, and they're also in the process of widening the streets, they're also removing mature trees that provide shade and oxygen for Valley residents. So that's my concern and question. Will you help improve pedestrian, bicycle, and keep mature trees? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lionel. So absolutely. As I said, I just was endorsed by Streets for All, and so their intention with Measure HLA is more bike lanes, and I think part of the challenge of us having these big lofty goals, which I support, is that with the Green New Deal or Measure W, is that there are great intentions, but there's no one person overseeing these things. There are no benchmarks. I was actually looking the other day at the Green New Deal, and there were 2 annual reports put up, and no one, when a new administration took over, if if the Bass administration is taking it over, there was no through line. So I think as we're talking about how we can make sure that we're greening our community, that we have benchmarks that are streamlined, so it's passed on from one administration to another, and we're saying this is the intended outcome. When we pass this is what will be true. This is what that means in tangible terms, and that means that if in 2035 X is going to happen, what's going to happen in 2025, what's going to happen in 2024. But I think we need people to be held accountable. I think we need to know who in the city, who in the county, who in the state is going to be overseeing those things. So, but absolutely, I think that we need more bike lanes. I think we need more bike security, putting up whether they're the cones or the extra lane, but I think we absolutely need to make it easier, not harder, for people to ride their bikes. And then, in terms of protecting trees, the controller Ron Galprin put out a tree canopy report, which called for remote sensing and mapping data to share and help catalog the urban tree forest. I think we need to understand where we have the most mature trees. And I know that in this district in particular, we need more tree canopies. So once I have a full grasp and understand where we need more trees, I think what we'll start to do is we will absolutely invest in planting more trees, teenage trees, so that we can achieve sizable canopy growth.
I've never heard the term teenage trees. I think that's absolutely charming.
I just honestly, I just made it up because I've been I've been thinking about this, and as we're trying to bring in new trees, I was having a conversation and someone said, will you have full size tree canopy growth by the end of your first term? And I said, well, not unless we bring in teenage trees, right? Because if you bring in, a baby tree, unless you uproot it, right, then I think there's no way. Like, I don't want to make promises that I can't keep, but I know that you can safely move some trees, again, depending on what the timelines are and cost.
Right. Okay, I'm going to go to Chris and then Linda. If I don't go to ask Linda's question on her behalf because she can't raise her hand, somebody remind me, and then we'll go to Glenn and Miran, and then we will stop questions.
Holly has her hand up too.
Uh-oh. Okay, then we'll go to Polly, and then we'll be officially running late, and then so you guys got to stay so we can hear our committee reports. So we'll start moving quickly, I hope. Chris.
Yes, I want to say, Serena, please don't ever use the term meltdown. We hear the word meltdown in media all the time. Meltdown is not a scientific term. There was no meltdown at the Santa Susana Field Lab. There was no release of anything except gases at the sodium reactor experiment in 1959. The president of my Democratic club, when I was engaged around 2007, Dr. Albert Sohr worked at the Santa Susana Field Lab, was a PhD in physics, and he introduced me to the senior engineer that ran the sodium reactor experiment. So I have all this information. I interviewed over 20 scientists that worked there at that time. And I would love to talk to you more about this because I cannot stand the word meltdown, because I used that term myself in an article in the Daily News in 2008, because that's what I was hearing too. So what I'm saying is I am a science-based person, a graduate of CSUN, started my master's in public health, but because of the Northridge earthquake, I wasn't able to finish it. We all know what happened to the CSUN campus. So the point is that I'd like to help educate you on this issue. It's very important to me and my community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Linda, I think you want to know what Serena's position on the Van Nuys Airport is. If that's not correct, please chat madly away. And Serena, please go ahead.
On the expansion?
Linda, can you type, please? Or can you talk? If you can't raise your hand, but maybe you can talk, Linda? Linda, can you just unmute and talk maybe, or type?
Yes, I would like to know about the expansion of the Van Nuys Airport. Those of us that live in the North Hills West area are having really a hard time with the jets coming in that are coming in off of Havenhurst in that area, and the folks with the turboprops coming in. They should be flying, I think, over the freeway, but they're coming over properties and churning, and the noise is absolutely outrageous, and it's really untenable. And quite frankly, I've lived here 63 years, and I feel like the canary in the coal mine about this. I really want to leave the state and the city because of this. It's disgusting. It really is disgusting.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Go ahead, Serena.
I think that before we move forward on anything, we need to look at an environmental impact report. And I want to be honest, Linda, I got into this race 10 weeks ago. I've been focused on international crisis for the last 3.5 years. So it's not something that I've dug into. So I can't fully, I think, you know, the noise pollution is horrific. I actually lived in Van Nuys as a kid, and so I understand that. What I can commit to is reading up on the report, and then if Lisa will share your information with me, I can also just come back to you guys and give you more thoughts on that.
Yeah, Linda, you can just put your information in the chat or just chat to me directly and I will capture that. Or you can just email me directly, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, thank you. Glenn.
Thanks for being here. I noticed in chat there was a specific question regarding the Aliso Canyon gas storage facility, and although you mentioned it in the facilities along the rim of the valley, if you will, Sunshine Canyon, etc. I was wondering if you could expand upon the upon the facility and the impact on Water Ranch and the etc.
Sure, absolutely. Well, look, I'll say this. I'll start by saying that Henry Stern is a longtime friend. We've known each other pre-politics, and has endorsed me. And so, and my mom lives just 2 miles from Aliso. She was displaced during the gas leak because she was having issues breathing, which started when they sprayed malathion in 1983. And so I do think that we need to look at alternative sources of energy. I think we need to eventually look at closing the facility. You know, what we also need to make sure is, you know, what's feasible. And while we're pushing for closing the facility, while we're pushing for alternative sources of energy, to make sure that we're holding folks there accountable, that you know, the reports that are coming out are public. I think that we need to get someone from this district, at least one someone, onto the boards up there, so that we have an aperture and it's not just we're hearing straight from the people running the facility what's happening. I think we need more disclosure. And hang on one second. Oh, sorry. I thought that was you, Glenn. But yeah, I absolutely support closing the facility, and in the meantime, making sure that we have mechanisms to hold people accountable, which, you know, I know that there are supposed to be reports, but I don't know how public they are. I've been talking with folks at UCLA who are going to be running some studies, and I'm supposed to talk with them actually next week to learn more about their involvement, and hear how, as a council member, beyond just working at the state level with the utilities, how we can be most effective in making sure that nothing like that ever happens again.
All right, thank you. Miran.
Yes, good evening, Serena. I have only 2 simple questions. First, what are your budget priorities? And 2, if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would be and why?
Interesting. Well, in terms of budget priorities, it depends on what part of the budget. So, look, I think we need to invest in CD12 in more affordable housing, and make sure that we're, and when I say affordable housing, for the unhoused, but for every income level, I think we need to be thinking about making sure that the teachers and the nurses that built this community, the people who work for the city, have workforce housing or access to be able to live where they work. That's a really big priority for me. I also think we need to be, so one of the things that Ron Galprin, the former city controller, did was he identified vacant land parcels, and they're all over the city. We need to make sure that we're utilizing those. When I consulted for LAUSD, and we identified vacant land parcels there, and now the school board is actually building homes and a workforce housing for their bus drivers, for their classified employees. We need to be doing the same for the people who are committed to working in the city. I think it's a great way to invest long-term in the people who invest in this community. One of the other things I would do in terms of some of our capital improvement projects here in the district specifically, we only have one working public pool, and it's really hot in this part of the valley. The public pools are where our young people, especially the underserved kids in this community, learn to swim. And in fact, there have been multiple drownings in this community. It's in home pools, but I think having those, we have 2 pools that have been closed down for an upwards of 10 years. So I would really look, specifically for this community. And then the other capital improvement project that I'm really interested in, specifically in this district, is the VA, making sure that we're getting funding, not just from the city budget, but also from the state and federal budget, to be building veteran housing. The West LA VA hospital has been able to do it, and the current administration of the federal government has said there's billions of dollars to invest in LA City, and I think that we should obtain some of those dollars.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Did you answer the zoning one?
Oh, look, I think that we have to look at some of our empty land parcels. One of the things that Mayor Bass has done well is this Executive Order 1. I think we need to be looking at emergency and long-term solutions for affordable housing. I think we keep saying, we can't build here, we can't build here. I'm not saying we should build on sites where that are contaminated, but I think we need to consider, we have a lot of industrial space here. We need to consider how we're shifting some of the zoning around that, because anyone who's driven down Devonshire and Balboa knows that homelessness is out of control, and the need is urgent. And so I think we need to look at where certain things are zoned industrially and consider rezoning those for affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Polly, do you have something very quick? I'm getting very stressed out because AJ, I said that Polly would be the last one, but you're Energy Committee Chair, so I don't know what to do. Okay, you just lowered your hand.
Mine is really fast.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Serena if you're guaranteed to be on the ballot in November, because
No.
there are only 2 candidates.
No.
So I wanted to ask her that.
I'm not. The race is over March 5th for us. So someone will get 50 plus 1%. Hopefully it will be me. This is, for those of you who know, this is a district that's been held by the Republican Party for 70 plus years. It's been held in the same political family for 4 generations. And this would be the first time that we would flip it. It would also be the first time we would elect a female to this seat. But it's over, ballots drop on February 5th. And
okay. Are you getting enough volunteers? Because I know that that many of us have volunteered prior for Lorraine Lundquist. So do you feel, and maybe my question is, do you feel that you're within shot, that people are upset enough with Lee that you have a good shot?
Thank you. So I'll say this, that I'm putting my email address in here too. So if people want to talk to me afterwards, but we can always use more volunteers. Here's what we know. We did a poll in December, and what we know is that when people hear about the positives about me and the negatives about John, that I win by 26%. So, we are raising quickly, but this is a people-powered campaign, and we need all of the volunteers we can get. There's no such thing as too many. So as I said, I'm going to drop in my email and also our website. And if you are interested in volunteering, if you're interested in door knocking, making phone calls, we would absolutely welcome you.
All right. Thank you so much, Serena. I wish you, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you. Thank you all. And feel free to email me any additional questions, and Linda, please email me and I'll connect back.
And Linda did put her contact
She did.
information in the chat, so please grab that before you
Yep.
leave.
Let's take a picture. There it is. I see it. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
Well, thank you all.
Wonderful.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
I look
you.
forward
Thank you
to
so
continuing
much
the
for joining
conversation.
us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, we're going to move as quickly as we can through our committee reports. I think I start, where are they? I saw them earlier, but they went away when I shared my screen for the switches on. That's what happened. Shoot. Okay. So I'm just going to go off of my memory for a second. We have a lot going on with advocacy. A lot going on. That's what we're doing. Here it is. Bear with me. Oh, wait, sorry. Okay. We've got charter reform, democracy vouchers, resident assemblies. I call them that because I don't like the term citizens assemblies. We've been talking about Ridwell. We hope to have them come speak to us soon. We've got missing bioswales, the mystery of the missing bioswales. We've got Sepulveda Basin. We've got artificial turf. We've got the Olympics. And Heidi Feldstein, I realize, Soto is going to be coming to our next meeting, our next monthly meeting, February 25th, to talk about wildlife ordinance and Vista Hermosa oil fields and building decarbonization and a bunch of other stuff. So, and anything you guys want to talk to her about, because you can ask her questions if we have time. So that's it for that. AJ, you're up.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll make mine quick. So the first one I want to highlight is, as of right now, we've been working on the draft motion for the Vista Hermosa site. The last thing we were working on was our efforts to send a letter to CD1, but as of right now, we're at a brief pause because CD1 is currently going through a restructuring process. Not to say that this is putting our efforts to rest. We do have a meeting coming up with stakeholders we're working with, including the Vista Hermosa community, Sunrise, and Stand LA, as well as the Sierra Club. As far as the Broadway oil drilling site, no major movement on that as of right now. As far as the Aliso Canyon disaster health study, I went ahead and actually shared a link that everyone is more than welcome to look at. So it'll basically show you just what was discussed in depth in community meeting 1 and 2. So the bigger picture of this is that there's a panel of people from UCLA that's continuing to, that's doing a 5-year study plan. My hopes in following this study, among many others who are on this meeting, is to ensure that there's conclusive evidence that indeed the Aliso Canyon gas leak is detrimental to the community, and they don't find anything inconclusive, and definitely with our hopes for further legislative influence. And then my last point, as far as the Berkeley court hearing, received notification from the Sierra Club that it looks like their appeal was denied. Not to say that this is the end all be all for our building decarbonization efforts. One of the other things expected to come up at the February meeting is to get further clarification and guidance from our city attorney. Just as a reminder, our meetings are the third Wednesday of every month, and hope to see many of you there. That's it for me.
Thank you. Muriel.
Hello, this is also going to be pretty quick. What in the world? Okay, sorry. I'm going to mention this. So we had our last meeting on January 4th. We started the new year strong. There was follow-up on the gondola. I mean, the Stop the Gondola strategy meeting that they had also had on the 4th. So I had gone to it, and I spoke about what the next steps are. As of late, I think they've canceled speaking about it in the 17th and also the 25th meeting. So I'm just going to wait to hear what's going on with that. We talked about the Streets for All state bill discussion, and also there's a green initiatives mixture on February 7th. You could reach out to Charlene Moyer for that. And yeah.
Yeah, so for anybody who was, I hope some of you are planning on attending the Metro Board meeting on January 25th to voice your opposition to the gondola. Metro, I'm not sure what they're up to, but they are not holding a vote that day. We're not sure why, but they're not doing it, so you do not need to go. All right, Joanne.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. My hand's raised and I don't know why I can't get it down.
Oh,
So we're meeting next Saturday. We haven't
oh,
met
sorry.
we haven't met since October. At the last meeting, we actually decided to do a campaign. And this meeting will be to craft the campaign to city officials. We decided to do this to city officials in October. And now we're actually going to figure out the talking points and the ways to launch social media, letters, and so forth. And we really need a multitude of voices. So we're going to ask people to contact their neighborhood councils and ask people to write as individuals. And we'll give them the talking points and they can make up their own if they like. And we just want the city to make trees a priority because they seem to get short shrift. I'm not going to go into details here. And then there's some other topics that we're going to discuss. There have been a rash of tree removal notices, and there are people at Urban Forestry telling me they can't be challenged. And yet we send a notice out saying that they can be. So we need to get that clarified. ED1 housing is going through with no space for trees. So the subtext to that, what I say sarcastically, is low-income people don't need trees, right? So we'll be discussing that. The Crescent Heights ficus trees were voted by the Board of Public Works to be cut down. They're the beautiful trees that are the gateway to Laurel Canyon, and they're going to be replaced with little lollipop crepe myrtle trees that the city can barely get to be canopy trees. They're usually just shrubs. We're going to discuss the sidewalk repair program because it's resuming removing trees despite the successful EIR challenge where the judge told them to stop removing trees, and an update on the La Brea tar pits. Also, we have a new vice chair, and we'll be announcing that at the meeting. And if you are not already on the trees committee list and
Oh,
want to get
sorry.
the Zoom notice. It's trees@ncsa.la. If Lisa puts the slide back up, you'll see it.
Sorry,
I'm
do I
on a
need to put it up? I'm not going to. Is that okay?
That's all right. trees@ncsa.la. I can't use the chat. I'm on a cell phone. So thanks very much and hope to see you next Saturday at 1:30. And the Zoom link will go out to our mailing list, which is almost 150 people. It'll be going out as soon as I get the Zoom link from Lisa. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think you can use the same Zoom link, but I need to figure out how to make sure that's going to work, and I don't remember how to do that. So that's a little project, but I'll work on that.
No worries. I mean, there was no hurry. I often don't send it out till a few days before, so it's okay.
Honestly, you can just use the same Zoom link. I just need to verify that it will work. So you can just use the same one.
Oh, from last time. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, announcements. I have two. We're gonna do, why don't you do the first one, Joanne, about the UFMP thing?
Oh, yeah, sure. The city forest officer is having a series of workshops to introduce the urban forestry management plan, which actually hasn't been written yet, but this is the opportunity to give input for it. And she was at the last virtual one taking notes, and she tells me that she will be doing that at ours, that she will attend. And the format is a little dry, but what's amazing is that there's plenty of opportunity to voice your concerns. So we're going to do this on February 6th. We think, okay. It hasn't been set yet. Okay. There is one going on February 6th, whether it's the NCSA co-sponsored one remains to be confirmed, but it was offered to us. And Lisa and Charles and I, as Lisa's nodding, chose that date. And it's relatively soon, but we like everyone to come, and we'll send out a notice. Maren, do you have a question?
Well, let me just make my other announcement really fast. Just to remind you guys, we're going to have a meeting with Heidi Feldstein Soto February 25th. And after that, we're going to hold a CD 14 candidate forum. I'm not sure who's going to come among the candidates. We've heard from a few. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'm done. Miran.
Actually, I have a question to Joanna. Joanna, you asked a neighborhood council to write a letter. Is there a council file for it, or is that letter to a direct department?
No, these letters are going to go to the city, to the mayor's office, to deputy mayor, to council people. But I don't want them to come from neighborhood councils. I want them to come from individuals. But what I would like is for the sustainability representative to go to the neighborhood council, or anybody that wants to do a public comment at a neighborhood council, to get individuals to write to the city to prioritize trees. This was actually a successful campaign several years ago by Angelinos for Trees, and the mayor wrote back to them and gave them a contact in the city that a number of us used. He's no longer there, but he helped us save trees. And this was Adelhash Khalil, and he's gone to the Metro Water Board now. So we don't have Water District, I'm sorry. So we don't have someone that has been designated to help us prioritize trees. I've had a lot of conversations with Randall Winston, but I still feel that the mayor's office needs to hear that many people want this. It's like with the street vendors, 500 people came to City Hall, and suddenly the street vendors got licensed. So they were allowed to be out there. But if 500 people hadn't come to City Hall, and I was there that day, it was a mob. So if we can have a mob of letters, I think that, trees get forgotten. This wonderful candidate that was just here really isn't very knowledgeable about trees, and we can help her become knowledgeable. But the The Board of Public Works Commission is not knowledgeable. They make decisions asking urban forestry, and urban forestry, everyone at urban forestry comes as a tree surgeon, starting out as a tree surgeon. That means that there's no one there that's had a formal education in urban forestry. And this, I think, is coming back to haunt us because we're not operating with the most up-to-date knowledge.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. But good question. Thank you.
Glenn,
Well, I guess I'll go into more detail at the trees committee meeting, but I did go to the urban forestry management plan session yesterday at Northridge Library.
Oh,
and
great.
Which was run by tree people. There was nobody there from the city or county, like forestry folks, folks who are actually involved with trees. And I was a bit concerned. I mean, yes, it was pretty open and whatever, but there, like one of the stations, it was like the facilitator, which is I guess tree people person, prioritized sidewalk repair over trees. And to me, that's really not what we want to, the message to be. So anyway, I have some grave concerns about this, but mostly what I wanted to say was that my neighborhood council and I personally, even though I've been involved with a lot of these issues, including the whole sidewalk repair, EIR process, etc., I received no notification about these upcoming workshops that are being held. 25 in the city of Los Angeles, 25 and plus 25 in the rest of the county of Los Angeles beyond the city of LA. That's 50 workshops. So if you can, if the NCSA can make sure that gets out to everyone and all the neighborhood councils, I would strongly recommend that.
Well, I sent it out to the trees committee. I sent the whole list in a link to the trees committee.
Okay, my point is that the people who are organizing these events, including tree people, are not doing adequate outreach to the stakeholders and specifically the neighborhood councils. Thank you.
You're right. You're right, Glenn.
okay, I think thank you, Charles. I think we are sort of shifting to a trees committee meeting, and we are 25 minutes over time. So I think we should, yes, look at Muriel's face. For Muriel and for others, we must end. But thank you guys for hanging in there. Way past. And it's like, okay for Lionel. Well, thank you, Lionel. For
We enjoyed
being
it. It's just still you can talk.
What'd you say, Miran? What'd you say, Miran?
No, it's good. Go for it.
Well, it's good for half of us. Half of us are no longer here. But thank you guys. And it was fun. I enjoyed it, I must say. So thank you guys, and please do complete the evaluation, and we'll see you guys next month, if not sooner, I hope. And have a
Great
lovely
meeting.
evening. Bye, everybody.
Good night. Good night. Good
Ciao.
night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Where is it? There it is.
Oh, this was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, I didn't feel all this time.
You didn't what?
I didn't feel it.
Well, I didn't, but of course yes, Lionel, thank you for saying that. I'm going to try to say it. It's really hard with my new computer. I don't
This
like
was.
This is Charlene. You guys have a good week.
Thank you, Charlene. Now oh yeah, we texted. You're right. You saw, I'm remembering. You saw that No, Lionel, it's Ridwell. Are you still here? It's Ridwell. It's Ridwell. It's not Ridewell. It's Ridwell.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Alex. Sent a link. I didn't know. Now I understand what that is. It's to dispose sustainability options solutions. So yeah, I thought that was a typo. Thank you, Alex. Send me the link on the chat. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. I see she did. Yeah. In the emails, somebody put in an E at some point. So that was a source of confusion at some point.
Oh, okay.
It was somebody wrote Ridwell and then somehow an E got in there. I don't know how. Oops, stopped it right well. How did that happen? God. damn it. Look at them all. Used to be easier. See my messages, that's so annoying. Oh, not letting me see all the messages anymore. It used to be much easier.
You're trying to save it?
Not letting me do it the way it used to. No. No. Sometimes an improvement is not an improvement. Those little 3 dots at the bottom that somebody suggested. See what that does.
Lisa, I think I emailed the chat to you.
Okay, well, maybe I need to have somebody email the chat to me. I just think the format, I don't know, is the format, what is the format like? Because sometimes the saved version, I don't
Yeah,
like.
yeah, they are updating this format one more time at the end of March, actually.
How do you happen to know that? Speaking of things like that, I might need your help getting into our Facebook, Miran, because I think you're an admin, and
I will call you tomorrow morning.
well, I might not answer. But
Okay, you will not answer. I will try to call you again.
okay, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, the 3 dots don't work.
I couldn't, this is Charlene. I couldn't type anything in the chat or my desktop wouldn't let me in the box. So that's why Mario put in my contact info because I sent her a text and I said, I can't add for some reason, I can't add anything into the text.
Well, I can't open the 3 dots. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I can, well, actually, I didn't try to type in it, did I? Well, I'll get the chat, but that'll annoy the hell out of me. The formatting that it will come in will annoy me enormously. But I can't save it. So. Oh, 3 dots on the top of the chat box. I can try that. No, I can't. I can't get to the top of the chat box. All right, I quit. I give up. All right, good night, everybody.
Good night, Lisa. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
We made it. Bye.